Welcome to Whiskey's a Journey. My name is Peter Faciano. Today's Friday. I have another bottle battle coming at you. If you are new to this segment and you don't know what's going on, I have some random samples that I have in these little 2-ounce sample bottles. I have them marked here on the bottom. I just randomly took these out of my random sample box. They were paired up for some reason or another. I'm the person that put these things together. I'm going to nose them and taste them and then tell you which one I like the most. And then I'll reveal to myself at the very end of the video what they are. And then if I can remember, I'll let you know why I put these together as a matchup. If you are new to the channel and you end up liking this and you're not subscribed to the channel yet, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. Turn that bell notification on because I produce videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Also, let you know, I have a February giveaway happening. All the rules to that giveaway are in the description below. Feel like supporting the channel, go ahead and give those a read through and go ahead and donate if you feel like it. All right, glass number 1. I'm going to start on my right. I think I've been starting on my left. Get a little bit of cherry, oak, spice, that red fruit note, that cherry note. So red fruit, I would say like berries, strawberries, cherry, oak, a little bit of cinnamon. Smells very, very familiar. I mean, it smells like a bourbon, but it smells very familiar. The cherry note is not medicinal. It smells like a pretty sweet, ripe red cherry. All right, let's go ahead and get it on the palate. Ooh, that's really good. All of those notes that were on the nose are coming through on the palate. There is an elevated spice as it heads back towards the back of the palate. I like the proof point. I like the oak. There's a good amount of sweetness along with the spice. The cherry notes coming through pretty strong, along with some vanilla, caramel, and brown sugar. This is what I would say is straight over home plate of a bourbon. I like that quite a bit. I have my water and a pad of paper and a pencil. So I'm going to jot some notes down so I don't forget, and then we'll move on to glass number 2. Now let's go ahead and move on to glass number 2. Tell you what, glass number 1, that finish lingered around with pretty good fruit notes, a little bit of touch of spice, and oak is sinking in underneath the tongue. That's actually pretty good. All right, glass number 2 has a little bit of a funky note, almost like a overripe melon. I don't know if you've ever experienced this before. If you had a watermelon rind and you carve out the watermelon, you just throw the rind away into the garbage, or if you have cantaloupe and you have those cantaloupe skins and you just throw them away, if they sit in the trash can too long, or if it's a hot summer day and they're in a trash can outside, there is a certain smell that a melon or a rind of a melon kind of gives off, and it's a little bit musty, a little bit cardboardy, a little bit, dirty dishwater kind of thing. That sounds horrible. It's not a bad note, but that's the notes that I'm getting. So there's a little bit of sweetness on top of like really overripe, decaying fruit. And again, all in the best possible way. There is a little bit of spice, like spicy cinnamon, almost leaning towards acidic or citrus. So it's a combination of cinnamon and citrus. It's a little bit confusing on the nose. I got a little bit of dish soap as well, but that might just be the Glencairn itself. Tell you what, on the nose, I think I like glass number 1 a little bit more than glass number 2. I still like this. It's just not as cohesive or rounded as glass 1. And even before I taste it, I think this is going to be more spice than sweet. But let's go ahead and get it on the palate. Cheers, everyone. Oh, man. I was not expecting that at all based on the nose. That is really red fruit ripe with a good amount of vanilla, a little bit of touch of honey, and the spice note is a little bit less in glass 2 than glass 1. That also could be contributed to this being my second sip. I'm not exactly sure what the spice level is actually going to be. Once I do this off air, let my palate calm down, go back and forth between the two, maybe I'll get a better sense of whether or not this is actually spicier than that. Tell you what, I actually like them a lot. I like both of them. I like the nose on this one more than this, but the palate right now, they're pretty even. So let me go ahead and take some notes, get one more sip of each, and then I'll go off air. All right, I got my notes written down. Go back to a second sip with glass number 2. The finish on that was not nearly as long as glass number 1. On the second nosing, there is more cherry forward, more vanilla, more oak. The spice level has now dropped a little bit. It has rounded out a little bit more. That overripe fruit note is still there. Still want to say this is a little bit, that overripe fruit, that dank or funkiness is still here. It's just not as dominant as it was when I first started to smell it. And let's get this on the palate again. It's crazy. That nose does not match the palate. That palate is nothing but fruit sweetness, oak, a little bit of spice on the back end, but not a lot. And it has rounded out from that second sip. And I got a bug flying around here. It's driving me nuts. So yeah, that second sip seems to be almost identical to the first sip. So let me go ahead and get a rinse of water and then move back to glass number 1. And then hopefully I get to kill this thing in the meantime. All right, still flying around in there. Didn't get a chance to get it, but oh, I thought it was in my water. Yeah, glass number 1 on the nose has it all over glass number 2. Just a very good, rich cherry note, sweetness, spice, vanilla, brown sugar, caramel. Has more of a traditional bourbon note than glass number 2. I don't get the dankness in this that I did here. Earthiness is gone. Yeah, this is just all fruit and spice. All right, let's get it on the palate. I don't know, glass 1's gonna be pretty tough to beat. That is delicious. There is a good balance between the sweet and the spice. The oak really does do a good job of settling in without being over tannic or bitter, but the oak that is there does give me a sense of maybe a small amount of dark chocolate or cocoa powder. So there is a little bit of a bitterness, but it's a dark chocolate bitterness that just adds to the layers of glass 1. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is let my palate calm down. I'm really gonna take my time going back and forth between these two, see if I can pull more notes out of glass number 2, maybe get an even playing field. But right now, I'm pretty sure I have a clear-cut favorite of glass number 1. So let's see how my palate does. Calm it down, go back and forth, give a good amount of time between sips, and then hopefully when I come back, they will have narrowed the gap a little bit more, and then I'll have my final decision. I'll be right back. All right, I don't think my opinion has changed. Glass number 1 is a clear front runner for me. When I was letting my palate calm down, not a lot has changed with the exception of they both became a little bit more oak forward with more rising spice. Now, what I ended up saying with glass number 2, that it ended up becoming pretty spice forward. I had a good amount of that earthy, dank, wet cardboard, decaying fruit note that did come back. And I thought that it left a more of an unbalanced, spicy finish. And that finish was pretty long. And then glass number 1, other than getting more spice and more oak as I started drinking it, it did come across as more complex. It had more of the robust flavors. It was better balanced. And I would say the cherry note played really well with the spice. Even though there was a rising spice each sip that I had, I felt that the cherry note kept up with it, along with the vanilla, the brown sugar, and the caramel. So glass number 1 is definitely my favorite. So let's go ahead and figure out what it is that I was drinking. Let me grab the bottles and then explain why, if it's not obvious already, why I put these together. So my least favorite of the two, glass number 2, was Remus 5. This tracks, and I think this is going to be the new one, the Remus 7. the Remus 8. So the Remus 8, this tracks. When I first had, well, let me get the bottles and I'll be right back. All right, so we end up having the Remus 5 and the Remus 8. Looks like I paid pretty much the same amount. This was $100, this is $109. So when the fifth release came out, it was on the top of a lot of people's lists as bourbon of the year. I have put it up against the 6, the 7, and now the 8. And for some reason, this just does not do well head to head with the others. I don't know if it's the level of spice or the oak, or if this is turning a little bit in the bottle. I'm not exactly positive, but traditionally in the past, this has not done well, and it played out here today. It has not done well up against the other releases. I'd be very curious to hear from you. Is 5 still one of those releases within this Remus Repeal Reserves that you like the most? If you've matched them up with the 6, the 7, or the 8, let me know where it stood for you. Only one last thing to do. Get these things together, mix it around a little bit, and see how the blend is. Now, last reminder, again, I do have a February giveaway happening as these are melding together. If you are interested in supporting the channel, there is a heart with a $sign in it underneath the video that's called a super thanks. If you donate any increment of $5, or every $5 increment gets you 1 entry into the giveaway. In the first week or second week of March, I'm going to have all the names randomized on my wheel. I'm going to spin the wheel. If your name pops up, you will automatically get 2-ounce samples of the First Friday Flight Fight, which was the new Rift this month. And then since there was only 4 bottles, you can actually choose 8 2-ounce samples of anything else that I reviewed in the month of February. Unfortunately, it has to be US participants only. I can't ship anything overseas. The amount of money that it costs to ship something overseas is way out of the price range of what I'm getting in return from the giveaway. All right, let's go ahead and get this thing on the nose and on the palate. We'll call the video good. Yeah, there's an oak sweetness, cherry sweetness. That vanilla is still there. Doesn't smell too much different than either of these did individually. Let's get it on the palate. Spicy, cherry, oaky, pretty long finish. Yeah, that's actually not bad at all. Actually, I think I like the blend of the two better than the 5 on its own. All right, that's where I'm going to leave it. Wherever you're at in your journey, I hope you're enjoying it. Until the next time, we'll talk to everybody later. Bye.